Rahim is a complicated question. I believe I tend to do a lot of things. There are aspects which are difficult to delve into, but I focus on photography now and the creative aspects of running two different organizations, Baobab Media Limited and Megapixels Productions. Megapixels Productions focuses on content creation and Baobab focuses on content distribution. So my position in both is content generation for Megapixels and then the aspect of putting together the content using whatever platforms we've got and distributing on Baobab Media. So my journey started a while back. I believe I was 3 or 4 years old when I used to play with my dad's medium format camera. It was a Yashica 645. Had a leather casing. It was quite nice. My brother and I, we got involved with that aspect of creativity and art from a very young age. So we used to play with the camera even when there was no film inside. You could just wind it up and keep playing around with it. Eventually what happened by 1998, while we were still in high school, because we were doing a lot of things in the community, there were several photographers who caught an eye, who saw us and took us sort of under their wing. One of them was Alnur, the other was Zahir Daya, who's in Canada now. And they groomed us, I believe, for event photography and semi-corporate photography. So building on that, we kept moving forward. And I then attended college part-time, where I learned photography. I learned about design, graphic design, animation, 3D media, 2D media, sound engineering, video engineering. And it was quite a wide spectrum course. But I got to learn a lot from that. By 2003, I was able to work by myself and get all the stuff that I needed done on any medium. So be it on screen, I could get it done there. Sit on the computer, and digital media was also something that was very easy for me to move to. I think 3.5, 4 years ago, we had a complete loss of all our equipment. We were robbed, and so we were down to zero. We were down quite a bit of money, I'd say. At least 8 million shillings worth of equipment was stolen. And we also lost a lot of personal items as well. So it was quite a big setback. What is happening is there's a certain amount of objectification with what we're doing. There is less value being put on skill, more value being put on equipment. So any Tom, Dick and Harry can come up and say, I'm a photographer today. The negative aspect of this is a lot of people can end up losing faith in professional photographers or what are deemed as professional photographers. The positive side to that is you then understand the value of what you're paying for. So if you're not paying any money and you have a photographer coming in to do the job for you, you know that you should expect either a really bad job, a fairly good job, or an okay job. Or you can expect no job done at all, in a number of instances that we found as well. If you pay for a 20,000 bob photographer, you know what to expect with that. And as it goes forward, you understand as well. So then you start understanding the price value of a professionally priced photographer. It's interesting to listen to how people debate on the overdependence of post-production as opposed to good photography. But I think when starting out, it is a normal trend. Immediate start-outs or photographers who start out almost immediately with no experience in photography, but more experience in the digital realm, will focus their efforts on making sure the images are better looking using digital medium. And in some respects it works out, in other respects it doesn't. But what also happens in turn is eventually they come back to the base, or they bring balance to themselves, and they find that they're able to produce better work when they have produced better photographs. So it does balance out eventually in most scenarios. In other scenarios, it remains the same and can be destructive, because you pay very little attention to what you're doing on camera and more attention to what you're going to be doing later on. So you shoot for that in mind. The Photographers Association of Kenya is ideally placed today to make quite an impact on photographers, and quite an impact on budding photographers as well. It creates a community where people are able to associate with one another, assist one another, help each other grow. And I believe it's not a stepping stone, it's a large platform for people to grow on and to develop an entire industry on itself. What's been happening so far is there's been pockets of photographers coming up and developing their own themselves as brand industries, as opposed to creating an industry and then themselves as brands within the industry. So it's great to have a unified body such as the PAK to help bring that all together and create one body that sustains everything. Adobe and I have an interesting relationship. I'm the influencer for the area, which means I am the evangelist for the Adobe products for the area, which is why I always tend to give the Adobe Photoshop talks or Lightroom talks or Bridge, and basing my workflows and everything on the Adobe products so that I can explain more about it and create awareness about the products and their capabilities as well. I don't get any revenue for this, but I am a partner, a strong partner of Adobe right now, and I work with them hand in hand. So when there's a new product launch, I am talking about it. When there is new things, or when there are people who require some assistance with that, I'm able to assist when it's needed. A wildlife awareness campaign we had 4.5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and it was labeled the African Warrior Princesses. It was interesting for me because we shot the wildlife on the outside. We went out, we got the wildlife photographs we wanted, came back in studio, shot the models in uniform and in costume, and got them to pose very oddly with respect to the images we were taking. And we composited them together so that we could create this unbelievable relationship between man and beast. And what we did was we had these African wildlife princesses protecting the wildlife or standing with the wildlife and being part of nature as well. And this was a very, I'd say it was very close to my heart because of the relationship that I want to have with nature, and the relationship I'm trying to portray with nature as well. So that would probably be the closest or the best project I've worked on so far. There is a respect to copycats. There is a nature of understanding for copycats. It is a pattern of growth. However, claiming someone else's style and making it your own and then sticking to that as your style as well kind of makes it a very mediocre society. So it will become a matter of everyone does the same bland shot with one light overhead and photographing the same subject the same way over and over again, and that becomes the standard for the top tier, which necessarily isn't the best standard, but because everyone's doing it, it becomes the standard. And I think that deteriorates the creativity we've got. It deteriorates certain levels of quality as well, and we then become a very substandard system which refuses to grow. Change then becomes a matter of force and not a matter of choice. And so it becomes a very difficult industry to progress in. So it is detrimental to us if we all become a copycat society, because we end up losing what is individually creative to one of us. I've photographed weddings and taken panoramas of weddings, photographed engagement shoots and taken panoramas during the engagement shoots. And there's different stories being told from these panoramic images. There's, instead of photographing the immediate emotion that is there with the client and bride and groom, I'd like to photograph them and show everyone where they are as well. So by photographing them on this corner here, I can then expand the entire universe of that image and say they're standing on a bridge in the middle of the highway by the city of Nairobi. And towards this end, you find that there's a road leading off to Mombasa. So it creates this huge perspective of what you're looking at. It doesn't stick to just, yes, this is the intimate moment and this is what else is happening. Uh, 28 to 80 millimeter. Yes, it is an old EOS film lens. I don't think it's available anymore. It's a 3.5 millimeter lens, 3.5 f-stop lens, and it's old. Its images aren't particularly the sharpest anymore, but it is my favorite lens. I'm not a strong believer in prime lenses all the time. I think there's a lot more to be said with other things. If I was left with any one software between Bridge, Lightroom and Photoshop, it would be Photoshop. Quite simply because I can do everything I can do with Bridge and Lightroom within Photoshop, except for the digital management.